Ace Bailey is one of the most polarizing draft prospects the basketball world has seen in recent years. If you watch a 45-second highlight reel, you see shades of the next Kevin Durant or Tracy McGrady. But some look at his weaknesses, like his alarmingly low assist numbers and his inability to impact the game beyond scoring, and come to the conclusion that he's not the prospect his star-level shot-making ability suggests. It feels like the eye test fans and the number/analytical fans are on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to evaluating Ace, making him a real interesting prospect to evaluate. In this video, we are going to break down Ace's entire game with both the eye test and number side of things and how his polarizing game can translate to the next level. Before we start, make sure to leave a like and subscribe as I've been posting hoops content almost daily. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start by giving a quick summary on how Ace's season has been at Rutgers so far. On the season, he's averaging 21 points per game, 8 boards per game, and just 0.9 assists per game, shooting 48 and 41 splits, and he's also averaging 2 stocks per game as well. He's making strides in improvement areas and is progressing as the season goes on rather than regressing like other freshman prospects have since conference play has started, like a Jeremiah Fears or Jaeger Demon. Many people harped on how Ace was approaching negative BPM territory early in the season, a realm that usually does not produce NBA impact players, as he had a 0.7 BPM in his first 10 games. But since the new year, he has a BPM of 12.6, which is the third highest of any freshman since that span. It's also worth noting that he has been playing for a lackluster Rutgers team that lacks talent around him besides Dylan Harper, who hasn't been 100% for about a month now. This is worth noting for stuff like potential assists or the fact that Ace has a big burden to carry offensively with a 28 usage rate on the season. So now we know some context behind the season Ace is having. Let's dive deeper into his polarizing strengths and weaknesses. You simply can't start talking about Ace's game without talking about the shot-making and scoring ability he has. He has a super high release point at 6'9", which kind of leads to his shots being of higher quality than the naked eye suggests. Even though his assist numbers suggest otherwise, he's not really a ball stopper either because of the fact he usually just needs at most 2 dribbles to get a look off and can rise up into his jumper real smoothly off the dribble. He's shown some real good post work too, specifically with the turnaround jumper, again using his size and release point to create a clean look for himself. He's most comfortable in the mid-range and has torched the teams around the key that have gone zone against Rutgers' lackluster three-point shooting elsewhere. Now, his handle, strength, and mediocre first step makes it harder for him to create separation, which leads to some questionable shots and ugly misses at times. Stuff like this prevents him getting easier looks or more points around the rim. And while these flaws are at times masked with his heat or shot-making ability, these flaws could limit his offensive role and impact at the next level. So while he does have flaws offensively, like an extremely low 7.4 assist rate for someone of his usage, Ace's ability to score from screens and off the catch, to creating points out of nothing, to efficient buckets in just a few dribbles, he possesses a scoring skill set that NBA executives should not overthink. The only freshman right now who's shooting 45% and 40% better from far 2 and 3-point range. I'm pretty confident in his ability of becoming a useful off-ball scorer at the minimum, similar to a Michael Porter Jr. or a Rashad Lewis if we want to take it back a few years. So while I do think Ace's scoring ability is that of a high-impact NBA player, his overall ceiling will be determined on how the rest of his game develops. Like I said, there is value to his scoring ability, although the process and shot diet is somewhat flawed, but his NBA role is a lot more complicated if he can't impact the game elsewhere for those nights when the shot isn't really falling or teams are doubling him, etc., etc. Now, personally, I believe the area Ace has the highest chance of becoming impactful in, besides scoring, is on the defensive side of things. Thanks to his size, length, and fluidity as a mover, Ace possesses a lot of qualities of a guy who can become a plus on that end. He has a 4.3 block rate, which is the highest of any non-center freshman, and he also averages a steal per game, so the activity is most definitely there. Another thing that stands out with Ace is his activity on the glass. Although he may not be the most physical guy on the glass, He's always chasing rebounds and using his length to grab some, recording 6 double-doubles on the season and being 4th in all freshmen in defensive rebound rate. Now, Stockton rebounds don't ever tell the full story of someone's defense. You can argue how impactful he is right now, given that he barely has a positive defensive BPM, and there are various clips of him falling asleep or being undisciplined on closeouts or chasing blocks. Obviously, bad defenders make lapses like these, but for an 18-year-old, I'm not too worried about Ace, especially because the flashes are there. He's definitely a bit raw on that end, but there's a lot to work with, and it is exciting the impact he could make on that end, thanks to his motor, length, and fluidity as a mover for someone at 6'8". To me, one of Ace's realistic outcomes is becoming somewhat apparent when discussing his shot making and defensive upside. A 6'8" wing who can create offense out of nothing, while also being super effective as a scorer off the ball, as well as a guy who can make plays and be a plus defensively, would make a lot of money in the NBA. Now obviously, Ace would have to buy in on both ends for that role, but the ability and development path for that role is certainly there. Now that's definitely a good player, but let's talk about Ace's improvement areas that could really swing his projections beyond that type of role. What is preventing Ace from an on-ball role to me is his feel as a passer and creator, as well as his stiff handle. As I said earlier, Ace has alarmingly bad assist numbers. He has one of the lowest assist rates of any freshman and barely has a positive assist-to-turnover ratio at 0.4. Now, I don't think Ace is selfish, as he has shown willingness and development to pass the ball in recent months, and he's been robbed of some nice assists because of Rutgers' talent issues, but the ability has ways to go still. On top of that, some of his shot selections are just head-scratching. I know we've talked about how his tough shot making should be viewed as a plus at the end of the day, but stuff like the early shot clock heaves to shooting into traffic are huge question marks to his feel for the game. Those flaws suggest he won't be able to create advantages for teammates at the next level, and this is what makes him so interesting. His highs are that of a star, but his lows are non-NBA caliber stuff. On top of that, the handle is pretty limited as well. He's quite stiff and high up in the air when he's dribbling, and is visibly slower as a mover when the ball is in his hands. I'm not concerned with this as I am with the passing because he has shown some promising clips as a handler, especially when he simplifies things, but you'd rather have him have the tough shot stuff as a fallback and not a massive reliance, no matter how good he is in that aspect. Rim pressure will be another crucial thing for Ace, which has definitely gotten better from the start of the year to now. In his first 7 games, he shot just about 3 rim attempts per game, but since then, he's averaging almost 5 per game. He's also gone to the line more too, which is always good for a scorer, averaging 5 attempts at the line since the new year. This has been great to see because the lack of settling he would do was frustrating to watch early on in the year. And these improvements could suggest that him improving elsewhere could just take time and reps. Again, he's only 18. I think these improvement areas are going to be super important for Ace's overall impact at the next level. He's almost always in the negative net rating where he shoots poorly from the field, showing that he can't really impact the game elsewhere or be a plus when the shot's not falling. And I honestly think the only way he can justify being a top pick is if the rest of his game, from his defense to his feel for the game, just completely stagnates from here on out or barely improves. It's really encouraging how Ace went from a guy who the analytics hated, even during the big scoring games, to a guy who's now starting to regress to the mean, on top of showing better film in those improvement areas. So the likelihood that he can't get better in these areas, to me, are quite slim. I think NBA spacing is going to help him a lot, from opening up lanes to drive or helping him read the floor as a passer. He's just going to have a lot more room to work with, as well as the improvements he's made over the season. I think he's going to be quite coachable. Now, in terms of draft stock, I see no reason why he should move out of the top 3 or top 5. There haven't really been any upside plays emerging other than the preseason hype guys like a Dylan Harper or a VJ Edgecombe. So really, I think Ace is locked into the top 4 as long as he keeps showing these high-level scoring games as well as the improvements elsewhere that he's been showing over the last month. Now, me personally watching Ace throughout this season, there was a stretch in the season where I was starting to become a bit turned off on him due to the shot selection and the lack of impact in any realm besides scoring and the historically unfavorable numbers he was getting to in terms of BPM and Bart Torvik, categories. But the last month or so has been really eye-opening, and while he makes similar dumb shots still and is not a player with high feel right now, it does feel like he's growing and that he's willing to improve, and that's all you want to see from a talented 18-year-old at the end of the day. I'm going to stick with the realistic outcome being an off-ball perimeter threat who's a plus defensively, but if just any of that rim pressure or feel as a passer stuff can improve, who knows what levels he can make because his shot-making stuff is just so special. Let me know your guys' thoughts on Ace in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'm putting out a variety of hoops content right now, almost daily. I hope you guys are doing well, and peace out.